Raincoast has been interested in the Lower Fraser River and estuary for almost 10 years now. And when we started doing research in the area, we found that the habitat that was available to juvenile salmon was very limited. So we started doing research in both the south arm and the north arm, and we found there were lots of juvenile salmon using the north arm, and most of the habitat that used to exist was no longer available. So we got really interested in both reconnecting habitats that are existing, but then also restoring other habitats that used to exist in this area. This area in particular, in the North Arm, we're going to be doing some work on a past compensation site that was built over 30 years ago. It was constructed to be a sedge marsh, but because of some of the things they didn't quite understand at the time, it's been taken over by cattail and most of the fish habitat has been lost. At this site in particular, we're going to be doing some restoration work in a few phases. The site has been basically completely taken over by cattail, so the first thing that we're going to be doing is coming in and cutting down the cattail. And then in later stages of restoration, we're going to come in and actually reduce the elevation of some areas to make it more easy for the sedges to kind of win the battle against the cattail. And we're going to be reinstating those fish channels and really opening things up so that fish can use the area, and so that the marsh vegetation that the site was designed to support, for once it will actually be what it was intended 30 years ago.
This whole area used to be extremely connected in the past, and since we've developed this area, it's obviously become much less connected, but juvenile salmon do need to move through this area. There used to be, with the previous compensation area that was here, a lot of cattail had grown up, which makes it really hard for salmon to move through. You can kind of imagine it as cattail as a really dense forest, so it's hard to navigate through for these fish. So we've done a lot of cutting of invasive cattail, and we've replaced it with lingdy sedge, which is a good marsh plant for them. It allows invertebrates to fall into the water and them to swim easily through. To see the salmon that are using the restoration area, because we recently planted a bunch in there, we don't want to actively be beach seining using our big net, just because we want to give the some time for plants to establish. For right now, we're just putting a net in the channel that's where water is draining from the restoration area, and then we leave that for a certain amount of time, and then eventually we'll pull the net and see what we've collected inside. And then we'll also sample the outside of the restoration area, so along the river. So today we're going to see if salmon are using the area. So we've created these channels going into the marsh, which we're trying to catch today is those salmon moving out of this restoration area. Success for this project, I think we actually saw really early on, which is a great feeling. So we did the restoration earlier this year, and we sampled in March, and we caught salmon right away. So obviously with these kinds of projects, it takes time to see it in full force, but it's very encouraging to see salmon using it already. And we found with our other restoration projects that if you build habitat, salmon will come